Welcome back to the show. I've had my say in the big story on a just unthinkably tragic day for the sports world, the NASCAR community, the auto racing world in general. I can think of no better person to lean on for expertise and perspective on a day like this than Jerry Bonkowski, who does a terrific job with Essentially Sports, NASCAR and auto racing columnist. I consider him a historian of the sport, and somebody whose perspective I really value on a day like this. I wish we were talking on better terms. Let's just get to the nuts and bolts of this first. You know, the latest reporting TMZ had this morning is that he passed out in a simulator before being rushed to the hospital. The thing about this is, and I want to talk about his career and his life because that's what a lot of people want to remember. There's no way a seemingly healthy 41-year-old goes from having a little cough and some sinus issues the last time he was racing to passing out in a simulator to dead in a matter of days. So there's either a component of this that is not yet being reported or told, or we just don't know and the family doesn't know and they're going to find this out post-mortem. This whole thing is just crazy, Jerry.
It really is. And, you know, I don't want to make this sound about me, but I was in a very similar situation as Kyle was I had one of the worst sinus infections I've ever had 3 weeks ago, right around the same time he had it. And I wound up going to the doctor, got all kinds of meds, and they even talked about putting me in the hospital. They eventually didn't. Now I'm okay, except for my voice is still a little bit raw. But it scared the crap out of me when I heard that this was potentially a sinus-related issue. We don't know, like you said, yet. We will know eventually, but you know, it just hits so close to home. I was very fortunate in being friendly with Kyle. You know, I'll never forget, and I wrote about this in Essentially Sports, my column that came up today. One of the most heartbreaking, heart-wrenching times I've ever had with an athlete was the day after Rick Hendrick announced Dale Earnhardt Jr. was coming to Hendrick Motorsports in 2008. The day after, we had a press luncheon in Chicago. Kyle was there. It was myself and two other reporters, and he was just unbelievably sad. He wanted to cry, and he said, "I don't know what my future is. I don't, And this was before Joe Gibbs. The whole signing there, and I've never seen an athlete that sorrowful and not know about his future. And it was the first thing I thought of when I heard the sad news yesterday. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, it really is. And I mean, the poignant words, and we played it in the big story of him winning the Craftsman truck race, on the 15th, or I think it was just a week ago, and saying after the race why he appreciates it so much because you never know when it's your last. And that just hits so hard right now. I'm trying to hold it together. When you see something like this, and all of these guys, when you get in the car, you think the thing that could take your life is driving 170 miles an hour, side by side with other vehicles. You don't think it's going to be, some sort of sinus situation or whatever we're going to find out eventually that took his life. And it just goes to, we talked about this recently when there was another passing in the sport of just how snake-bitten this sport feels like it is, of its stars and treasured, athletes of this sport losing their lives far too early, Jerry.
And losing them not on the racetrack. Like you said, you didn't, if you kind of anticipate a driver passing, it's on a racetrack as opposed to something off the racetrack. And we saw that with Greg Biffle almost 6 months ago. And we saw that obviously with Kyle yesterday. And it's just like Kyle said, you never know when it's going to be your last one. And that goes for your last race, your last win, and your last day on earth.
Is this generation's Dale Earnhardt Jr. in terms of the significance of this passing?
Unquestionably. In fact, a lot of people say, well, he wasn't as good as Richard Petty. No, I wouldn't exactly agree with that because he's got more wins. Of course, they're over 3 different series as opposed to just one series. Some people say he wasn't as good as Dale Earnhardt. I would disagree with that as well, too. I think that Kyle was most definitely our Richard Petty. He was our Dale Earnhardt. He was our Jeff Gordon. I mean, he was just an incredible individual. Yeah, he had a bad rep. He was, he liked to wear the black hat, so to speak. But that's what Dale Earnhardt did. And Kyle and I talked many times about how people compared him with Earnhardt, and he actually embraced that idea. He liked being the villain. He liked being the bad guy. But as he got older, as he got married, as he started having kids, he turned out to be really a heck of a nice guy, as much like his brother Kurt. Although Kurt obviously does not have any children, but very similar. Kurt was very hard around the edges early on in his career, and he became one of the nicest people there is out there. Same thing with Kyle.
How will NASCAR rally around his family in a moment like this?
That's a difficult question to answer because, there's going to be the obligatory moments of silence, the prayers at both the Coca-Cola 600 this Sunday night, as well as the Indianapolis 500 earlier in the day. And that was Kyle's, big thing. He wanted to do the double like his brother did. NASCAR is as bad as NASCAR, or I'm sorry, as hard as NASCAR took Greg Biffle. I think NASCAR is going to take this so much more difficult and so much more harder because he was an active driver. He was the first active, and I saw this stat this morning, first active driver to pass since Dale Earnhardt.
Wow.
That's an unbelievable stat. I mean, and you don't even think about it until you see it and you go, that's right, and it's sad. I think that NASCAR is definitely going to rally around Kyle and his family. He's not going to be forgotten. I can guarantee you that. And it's sad that people were talking to him the other day about when they announced the NASCAR Hall of Fame for next next January they're going to induct him. People were saying, well, why wasn't Greg Biffle inducted posthumously and skipped over the eligibility rules? Well, people are going to start saying that about Kyle Busch as well too. But I can guarantee you, not next year in 28, or 27 rather, but in 28, you're going to see both of them inducted posthumously.
Yeah, and I think you need that sort of period of time to sort of let this breathe. I know emotionally it sounds great to say, oh, just put him in now, but I think it's okay to let it breathe a little bit, Jerry.
I agree with you. And although when Biffle passed, and I knew Biffle quite well.
Yeah, I remember you saying.
And I wrote, that must the same day, I think I wrote that he should have been, a mandatory induction in the Hall of Fame, regardless of the rules. I feel kind of the same way with Kyle, but you're right. You do have to let this kind of, you need to let yourself calm down from all this and remember him for what he was. And this, as the more time that goes on, the more time you'll have to reflect and remember the man who he was on the racetrack as well as off the racetrack. And he was really a great guy off the racetrack as well, too. Very humorous. In fact, I mentioned in my column today about 2 videos. I found one. I couldn't find the other one, but the 2 videos I remember very much about him. He was doing the Macarena and Gangnam Style videos, him dancing around. I mean, come on, Kyle Busch, a dancer. He actually was a pretty darn good dancer, though. I'll say that, though.
Amazing. Jerry Bonkowski wrote a great piece over on Essentially Sports. I'd encourage everybody to check it out. We'll also link to it on the YouTube channel as well, so people can check it out there on our social media platforms as well. Jerry, a sad day for NASCAR. All my best, my friend. We'll talk to you next week.
Thank you, Jason. Take care. Thanks for having me on.
All right. That was good. Yeah. It's just
one of those days where you have so much you want to say.
Yeah, I know. It's just crazy. It really, I mean, it's, a lot of people said it, and I'm still recording, just so you know. A lot of people said it. It's like Kobe. It's like Kobe. It's that big a thing. And I can tell you one of the things that tells me how big it is, and this is kind of a weird way of diagnosing or quantifying how big of a story this is. I post these sports wrap shorts and things like that all the time on different topics, different subjects. The quick obituary that I did on him right after the news was announced, the numbers on it tell me how many people have been impacted by it. The number of likes, comments, just the viewership of it across all platforms tells me that this is hitting hard. It's hitting NFL hard. It's that big of a deal around NASCAR. And even people that didn't, even when I was in my time where I didn't follow NASCAR at all, I knew who Kyle Busch was.
Right.
You know, and I got into the sport obviously late here over the last few years, but even I knew who Kyle Busch was, the M&M's guy. So for that tells you that, the pull he had, even just among casual sports fans, Jerry.
Well, the other thing too is that I think of all that's been said since yesterday, excuse me, the saddest part of it all to me is he will never get to race with his son. I mean, they had a couple of, small races that they were involved in the last couple of years, but I mean, he wanted to be there for his son when his son got eventually to NASCAR Cup. That was his goal. I mean, he wanted to be his mentor. He wanted to be his teacher. He wanted to be his coach. And that's all they ever talked about was, when Brexton will be, I mean, Brexton's 11, I think now. And so maybe in another 10 years or so, he would have been ready to go to NASCAR, and we won't see that. It's just the saddest thing.
And people don't realize, he was 16 when he got to the Cup Series, and, they had to basically change the rules for him.
Right, exactly.
And, I mean, you think about that kind of impact on the sport. It's just remarkable. Jerry, always appreciate it again, my friend. And again, check out his column over at essentiallysports.com. We'll link to it in the comments below. Thanks, Jerry.
Take care, Jason. Appreciate it.
I got the historical context on his career and passing with Jerry Bonkowski from Essentially Sports earlier in the show. Fridays we talk with Tino Pattigno. Mondays we talk with Jerry Bonkowski. I wanted to allow both of them to sort of opine and remember such a figure that loomed so large over the sport. And Tino Pattigno is with us, as he is every Friday on this show. On a different kind of NASCAR Friday than we're used to having, Tino. And I'll just share something, I hope you don't mind, in texting with you yesterday. It felt like this one, this is your generation. This is your guy from your generation. It feels like this one has hit guys like you harder for that reason. Am I reading that correctly?
You are. Kyle Busch, the epitome of a race car driver. A lot of people yesterday in shock because of this, rightfully so. And I was speechless trying to comprehend what had happened. And in doing so and thinking about it and thinking about Kyle Busch and his legacy, the words started to come to me because of what he did for the sport, what he did for so many people, the experiences I have shared with others watching him drive a race car. But it's more than just that, right? And I'm 25 years old, so for Dale Earnhardt's passing, I was not there to feel it live in the moment, but I can only imagine it feels something similar like this. And the reason I say that is because Kyle Busch was such a personality, a polarizing personality and person. And the fact that for some people who may not know NASCAR, they still know Kyle Busch. And to me, that was very important growing up because this is a driver, this is a guy who 234 wins across all three series, 9th on the all-time wins list, 2 championships, right? But the story I want to share about him is how he inspired others to be themselves. Growing up, watching him, he was deemed as the villain of the sport, the bad guy on the track. You push him, he'll push you back harder and then go out and dominate a race. And something like that was awesome to see. But over time, that villain matured and it was truly just him being a competitor. And I think a lot of people got to see that version of Kyle Busch as he grew up, as I grew up, as other people who were watching the sport for a long time got to experience this shift in who he really was. But maybe it wasn't ever really a shift. Maybe it was more so him opening up and growing as we all can do. And I say this because we saw him be a race team owner, helping young drivers like William Byron, Christopher Bell, Bubba Wallace, and many more make it to the top level of the NASCAR Cup Series. We saw him become a father, right? And that was something that he embraced, whether it was posting online or not, but it was very visible, the fact that he supported his son in racing, but also his daughter as well, making funny videos with her. And that's something to where you see this fierce competitor on the track, but also seeing this loving father and caring dad. And to me, I'm laughing because they had to change the rules of the lower levels of the NASCAR Xfinity series, which is now O'Reilly series, and the truck series, because Kyle Busch would go out there and dominate so much. They didn't want him to win every single race there. And the young drivers now value racing against him and what that was like, because he makes them better. And that was my whole feeling with this, is he was a driver and a person that just made people around him better, a competitor that was so fierce that you had to truly respect it. And this loss doesn't feel real because he was just that, real. And I think those are the type of people that impact lives the most, right? He was a person, an athlete, a pro athlete who turned a fan base into a nation, Rowdy Nation, as they call it. So I think that's his impact, that's his legacy, all that and much more. But when you stay gold in those ways, those are the type of people that leave an impact so profound to many others out there.
You traveled to races from time to time. You know, I've seen you out here in Vegas. Whenever you did interact with him, what did you come away with?
Just the presence, right? The aura, if you will, around him was strong. It was palpable. It was whether you're on the media center as a fan, walk by him on the track, that's Kyle Busch. And he, from race team to race team, whether it's with Joe Gibbs racing in the M&M's car or RCR driving the number 8 again, you felt that. And I'll also say this, when he was struggling, right? You know, it gets harder to win as you get older for a lot of people. I really admired the fact that he still tried so hard. This is a guy that has nothing to prove to anyone. He is one of the best all time to do it, to race a race car. But still, he tried to come up with solutions, was all in when the cards were against him. And that's not something that I think a lot of pro athletes would do in those scenarios that Kyle Busch was in.
There is a race this weekend. I don't know if they're going to have it on Sunday because there's all sorts of rain in the forecast for the Coca-Cola 600. Does that race wind up getting pushed to Monday? And what kind of cloud is there sort of over that race? Just how heavy are the emotions going to be for a lot of these guys?
The emotions are powerful for everyone in the sport right now, and even others. But this is a time that where NASCAR will go out there and they will race, just like they did after Dale Earnhardt's passing, just like they did in, after 9/11. This is a time to where our sport needs the sport. And Kyle Busch, unfortunately, it will never be the same with him not being there. Yeah. But guys like Denny Hamlin, guys like William Byron, any of the drivers out there can go have a strong race, put on a great show for the fans, because I know that's what Kyle would have wanted to do.
Tino Pattigno does a great job. SiriusXM NASCAR Radio and on Tubi. Catch him this weekend as well. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Was there anything else? And I'm still recording because I did the same thing with Jerry. Is there anything else you wanted to kind of put out there that you wanted to mention that we may have ran out of time for?
About Kyle?
Yeah, sure.
One thing that I was going to say was how Denny Hamlin called him the Kobe Bryant of this was our Kobe Bryant. He said that. And then I also feel like I could have done more race preview, so my bad. No, it's okay, because like I said, there's probably not going to be a race on Sunday anyway, so we'll have a chance to talk about it on Monday. But yeah, like I said, I said this to Jerry before, I'll say it to you too. I use social media to measure a lot of these things, and it's incredible. Like what the outpouring that I'm seeing on social media on this tells you a lot. A lot of times social media can be a barometer of bad things, but this is one of those 100%. Moments where it's a barometer of just telling you how beloved a figure he was in the sport. It feels good to see that. Like I agree. Like social media pisses me off. But at the same time, I know it's good, but at the same time, I'll be a little bit of a Debbie Downer here and say we never give people their flowers until after they're gone. Exactly. You're 100% correct. 100%. And I'm glad. I really do appreciate the opportunity to talk about this because like I think I said a decent story, and that's me. Like that is what you just said, in the sense of I could tell him growing as a person, personifying that growth as he continued to get older. And to me, like, I wanted to give him those flowers, like, while watching him, you know what I mean? Like before it was too late. And unfortunately, now we're here. But my point is like, I was able to recognize that that not many people, I feel like, do. Like you just said, like, it's like now a lot of people are talking about it after the fact, and now it's like we're being so positive, but it's like all the time so much negativity online and so much just bad shit, where it's like, I just hope that if someone watches this and watches what I say, they can potentially be inspired to have direction, to put their thoughts together, to remember the good stuff, the positivity, and move forward in that way. Because I was kind of stuck until I tweeted that out yesterday, what I put, because I just couldn't, I don't know, like I couldn't wrap my head around it. I just needed to get my thoughts out, and once I did, I kind of was able to breathe. So I just hope people could hopefully feel some sort of inspiration to move forward.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how the sport remembers them for the rest of the season too. Tino, always appreciate you, my friend. Thank you.